All right, so I don't know why three guys are doing this movie. I just want to acknowledge it coming out of the gate. It's a corporate intrigue, erotic thriller.
We don't have to. We don't have to do that anymore. We don't have to.
Oh, in Trump's America, we're fine? No, the reason we're doing this is because this is now one of the funniest movies of the 90s. Sure. I have no idea how to even explain how this movie happened. I saw it in the theater. I was excited to see it in the theater. It did really well in the box office. Mm-hmm. And then the years start passing and the internet forms into shape and habits change and people change. And now this movie is like, how the fuck did this happen? Woz, you suggested it.
So during the pandemic, 2020, early 2021, like I was watching damn near 3 movies a day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And between whatever your different streamers have available, sometimes you just end up on Amazon or YouTube and just rent movies. And, you know, when you're renting a movie, you get to watch the trailer first. And I'm like, all right, Demi Moore, Michael Douglas.
Yeah.
Okay, you know, basically a freaking... Exactly.
Yeah.
And I'd never even heard of the movie before, much less seen it. So I popped it in and, you know, you think you're in some sort of erotic thriller, which there's definitely a lot of elements to that in the movie, but it turns into something completely different throughout the course of it. And I just was fascinated by it as a document, honestly.
What's your history with this movie, Van? How many years?
Going all the way back to, I had that scene on one of my mixtapes that I had back in the day.
Oh, no.
I had VCR mixtapes of different things, and I had that scene on one of the mixtapes.
Oh, no.
Well, so
here we go.
Okay, we're off. What I remember about the movie was the bait and switch that people felt when they saw it.
Yep.
Because Michael Douglas, a couple of years before that, had done Basic Instinct.
Of course.
And a couple years before that, Fatal Attraction.
Yeah.
So this was the third in what people thought was going to be the erotic trilogy of Michael Douglas. Those 2 movies have pretty outrageous sexuality throughout the whole thing. This movie doesn't.
No.
For one scene, it's ratcheted up and then it's referenced for the rest of it. And a lot of people were like, wait a minute, what's going on? And she was smoking hot at the time.
Yes.
So people wanted to see Demi in this way. And they got one blistering scene of it.
Yeah.
And then it went away and it was about corporate espionage.
Yeah.
And what the internet was not going to look like 30 years later.
Right.
100%.
Yeah, this was the trilogy of Michael Douglas, the everyman with his dick getting him in trouble. Mm-hmm. But in the end, he's going to get out of it.
Right.
And it turned out to be that crazy lady's fault. Yep. This is what the late 80s, 90s were like. I wrote down, it's a sexual harassment movie that's really about men's fear of the 1990s that women were starting to take their jobs, which you feel all the way through. Right. It's about this weird, the internet's coming, what's this going to be? I remember seeing this movie. I didn't have email for 2 years until after I saw this movie. Mm-hmm. So he's getting emails popping up from no server. I'm like, well, that makes sense. Digital messages.
They were FaceTiming.
Yeah, they're FaceTiming. It's like, well, that seems realistic. And then finally with the VR stuff with the gloves, it's like, well, maybe that's where things are going.
Yeah.
And then you see it now, and it's just hilarious. That scene in the hotel room has to be one of the funniest scenes of the 90s.
Yeah, it's they have to find a way to sort of tie a bow on the plot stuff, because I think the movie just has so much to say about so many things, whether it be, you know, technology, or whether we should embrace it or fear it, women in the boardroom, sexual harassment, sexuality, like masculine. Like, this movie has so much to say about a lot of issues. And, you know,
and it's trying to do it in an hour and 58 minutes.
And
it's
in the meanwhile, they have to wrap up a plot, and the freaking, you know, the VR goggles, the Oculus at the end was part of that wrap up. It wasn't great, but I enjoyed it.
Dan was getting, you were starting to think, what was that thing you got?
What?
The Apple goggles?
Apple Vision Pro.
You got the Vision Pro?
Yeah, is that what the Apple Vision Pro is like? Do you just go into a virtual office and grab files?
Well, no, but kind of.
A manila folder.
You can do different stuff, and then, you know, after a couple of minutes, your neck starts to hurt, and you take it off, and your girl and your dog are looking at you like, "What are you doing?
What just happened?
Like,
what world were you just in?"
But it's so funny about how much about the internet the movie gets wrong. I remember there's one lady, and she's standing up there. Oh no, it's Demi Moore. She's giving her thing, and she's like, "It's going to be a place where there's going to be no race, no gender, no. We're not even going to think about any of those things." And then we get the internet, and we obsess about those things.
All it does is like pour gasoline on all of it.
Right? Like we were gonna do all of this stuff, move files around. Nah, we wanted to play Angry Birds on our phones. That's what the internet did.
But when you talk to people who are like, you know, technologists or whatever, at the time, they were true believers. They really thought the internet was going to bring us closer, not have us be alienated. You know, like you could talk to somebody in Beijing from your couch in Boston. And all of those things ended up being true. It's just not how we spent our time on the internet.
Well, not in the way that we thought that they were.
Exactly.
You were talking to the person in Beijing, but not to your mother. Like you're talking to the person in Moscow, but you're never in the same room with anyone. It just didn't go the way we thought it was going to go. We thought it was going to add to, but it replaced.
Yep.
It shifted in real time because I was in college in the early 90s when some people were like in the computer room starting to email and we were all like, what the fuck are those people doing? Mm-hmm. Like, wait, and then eventually you could get information. I remember when I was in grad school, like going to the library and you could use like Nexus, Lexus, stuff like that. But when I saw this movie in 94, we didn't know what the internet was going to be because The Net was the other movie that came out with Sandra Bullock. Mm-hmm. That's another one where they had this vision. Hollywood had this vision of what the internet was going to be, and you would have these helpers. So in The Net, it was Mozart's ghost, and and in this movie, it had that angel, and it was like this thing was going to help you and find you, and you could navigate the world with it. And then by 3 years later, we had AOL, and it was just like, I'm just going to send some emails to my friends.
It's funny though, but like Apple's like Apple Intelligence thing, that's the whole thing. It's like you have an assistant with you that's just kind of following you around.
Yeah, Siri. Well, I wrote down, so the movie, the 2024 internet things, it kind of gets right. Angel is basically Siri. Yes. Email is basically email.
Yeah.
The video calls are now Zoom. And the VR is like actually what the metaverse is. It's just the metaverse is way more interesting.
Yeah, I think it wasn't the technology that they got wrong. It was the application. It was how we would respond to it.
Yeah.
Right? And the way that we responded to it was the way humans respond to things, which is the simplest, pettiest way. Like, what could we use it for? How can it make our lives easier? How can it, but in very small ways. Like, literally, the whole thing became, do you got games on your phone? Like, that's, and so this was, but I think I would watch futurists from the past. And I watched this one guy from like 1959, and it's in black and white. He says, one day there's going to be a device, it's going to be in your pocket, and you're going to be able to do all your banking, book all your travel, do all your stuff from that device. It's like in 1959, he's saying this, and it seems like such a new world, and you have that device now, and you're on Pornhub.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just like you have that device.
You're on Pornhub watching this movie.
Exactly.
Here's the thing, though, that I think a lot of people, you know, mention when they talk about basically how the internet has developed. Like, I think when it was at its best is when there was less and less people on it, right? Where it's just like these few like niche groups. You go on your forum, you talk about your top 5 rappers on Questlove's, you know, rap forum.
OKPlayer.com.
Yeah, and keep it pushing, right? It wasn't this fraud thing. But then like the more and more people, the more ubiquitous the internet became, the worse it got. Like, that's just the reality of everything.
Well, this movie came out 30 years ago.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
And in some ways it feels like 100 years ago. And then in other ways, like, I don't know, this was a big deal when it came out. Huge. It was a big deal that Demi Moore and Michael Douglas were in a movie together. It was during that crazy Michael Douglas run where which we've talked about before, but Romance in the Stone 1 and 2, Wall Street, Fatal Attraction, Black Rain, War of the Roses, Basic Instinct, this movie, American President, Ghost in the Darkness, The Game. Mm-hmm. He's probably the most bankable picking scripts actor we had. I don't think he was the best actor we had, but I think he had the best batting average of big market movies.
He was able to develop such unique chemistry with every single female on-screen lead that he had.
That was his superpower.
You're right. He was able to give you a completely different movie based upon he was in The American President, he's this charming, affable, vulnerable, most powerful man in the world.
Yeah.
And in Fatal Attraction, he is completely overwhelmed by the woman, as he kind of is in this one.
In Basic Instinct, he's shooter.
He's shooter. He's like a weird. You don't know if you should be rooting for him type of guy.
But he's got the dark side in this movie because she alludes to it.
So
and then in one of the depositions talks about like vibrators, all this stuff they did, and she's like, I know Tom.
Yeah.
I know he keeps secrets. It's like,
that's
what's going
one
on
of
with
my
this
favorite
dude?
parts of the early part of the movie. It's like the first scene is him with his family, and it's like he is Mr. Dad.
Yeah, it's the most generic family scene you could have.
He even makes a joke about like, oh, you didn't get the memo I was being Dad of the Year or whatever. He makes a joke about it, and as soon as he gets to the office, like, don't worry, folks, I'm Michael Douglas. I'm still horny.
Yeah.
So it's like I'm Dad of the Year. I'm Mr. Wholesome, but I still got.
Well,
that
they have
dog
to
in
bring
me.
Dennis Miller into it to be like, this guy's got more ass than a rental car.
But I noticed it. But it was even the slight pat on the butt of the secretary,
which is like one of the craziest moments of the movie.
That-
where it's
that
like,
is.
oh my God,
Right.
You can't do that.
And this is kind of like the Mad Men thing. When you would watch Mad Men back in the day,
Yeah.
there's guys would watch Mad Men, and there was two types of dudes that would watch it. One type of dude would watch Mad Men, and he would be like, damn, I can't believe they were able to do that.
Yeah.
And the other guy would be like,
Bring that back.
like, look how good we had it.
Yeah. So we could drink in the office
We
at
could
2 o'clock.
drink and do it and smoke and we had voluptuous women that we could say whatever we wanted to. This was the days. But you know when you're watching the film that's going to come back to bite them in the ass at some point, and it literally does.
In one of the reasons this movie is so funny is they circle it around at the end, where at the end the assistant slaps him, and it's like, oh, who thought that was a good idea? There's a lot of moments where you're just like, wow, who thought that was a good idea? But that was the mid-'90s. Demi Moore. So the 90s resurgence she has, which starts with Ghost. She's in A Few Good Men, Decent Proposal, and then this movie.
You call it a resurgence?
Yeah, because after St. Almost Fire.
I think it's a surgence.
No, she was big in the mid 80s, and then she had some issues. But you look at her late 80s IMDb, it's pretty rough.
Yeah.
Ghost is the comeback. And then she by the time this movie comes out, she's probably the most bankable actress we had. What's weird is it's the peak, because after this she has Scarlet Letter, Now and Then, Striptease, and The Juror, and it's over. So this was the peak. She's never looked better in a movie. She looks unbelievable in this movie, and she's really believable, I think, as the calculating office temptress.
It's crazy. Because like when you look at her in the film, it's like, all right, this is like a professional woman. And she has like a kind of inviting sort of nature to her. But then once this woman starts talking, you realize you're dealing with a stone killer.
Yeah.
And that just doesn't let up the entire movie. And it's not a way that I'm used to thinking about Demi Moore, not deploying her like ferocity in that way. But she was just like, yeah, I got these people in my sights and I'm going to kill them. And she goes about the whole movie, almost pulls it off. But that's what I was struck by. I was like, oh, this is a nice lady, nice lady in a, Kamala Harris sort of outfit, right? And like, no, she's an assassin.
Well, that's what he had with Basic Instinct too.
Reference there. So Demi first. Okay, so you said she never looked better in the movie. It's facts, because I watched this on Prime Video, and then afterwards it suggested Striptease, and just for research purposes, I had to revisit it.
Of course.
So I revisited
sure,
it.
Kalika was fine.
Because Kalika, come on, man. Let the boys play. Okay. Let the boys play. And this is her at her, Striptease, she got in super great shape, and it was a big deal, $12 million. She's gonna be new. This is her at her the absolute peak of, oh my God, what a ridiculously beautiful creature. The problem that Demi Moore had is that the roles that she picked after this, she started trying to prove different things.
Serious, yeah.
She started trying to prove different stuff. And then when you said, is it the Scarlet Letter or the Crucible or something like that?
Yeah.
She was going for the Oscar. They were doing all of that stuff. She never quite got there. oddly, she might get there now, having sort of a Demi Moore resurgence as we talk about it now with The Substance and some other things. She's kind of back a little bit.
And that's
back a little bit.
That's why
she has 2 lines in the first 4 episodes of Landman, but it's somehow
funny.
second in the opening credits.
That's why when Bill asked, like, she was on top of my mind because of, you know, the movie that's doing pretty well commercially, Landman. And then I had just watched her Hot Ones interview where she just eats these wings and she's like making fun of the dude the entire time. And I'm just like, wow, like, this is a really charismatic actress who, you know, she's like 62 or something now, who, like, you know, when they get to be that age, Hollywood kind of just, all right, Granny, we're taking you to the side door type of thing. But like, she's back in a major way. And I'm like, we need more of this.
Yeah, so St. Elmo's, I had this as my hottest take. I'll just do it now. I think my favorite parts of hers were the St. Elmo's fire part and this part. Because I think they both leaned into this side that was really unique to her, right? There was a sexuality to her that not a lot. Kathleen Turner had it, Sharon Stone had it, but there weren't a lot of people that had it. And it was almost like she didn't want to unleash it in too many movies. Then when, like, Striptease is like a terrible movie. Like,
that's the thing. Striptease was,
it's like a weird nudity comedy. I don't even know what it is.
It was kind of the worst version of utilizing someone's sexuality in the movie. The movie was a comedy. There was no actual heat to the movie. The nudity itself seemed like a stunt.
Yeah, like shoehorning it in.
Yeah, come to see your nude, and there's not much movie left. Underrated film of hers that I really enjoyed. You left out A Few Good Men that was in. Did you say A Few Good Men?
I said it earlier.
But like people, G.I. Jane was a very polarizing movie at that time. But that also was a fantastic use of her physicality and her charisma, because in that role she carried the entire movie. Early Viggo Mortensen,
she's great in About Last Night. There's movies that I think if you're going sliding doors, movies she could have been in that she would have been awesome in. I think she would have been awesome in both Terminators. Like if she'd been in Terminator 1, she'd been the perfect age. Terminator 2, I think she would have gotten jacked like Linda Hamilton did. There's Kathleen Turner parts I think she would have been really good in. I think she would have been good in Romancing the Stone. I think she would have been good in War of the Roses. So yeah, you look at her IMDb and it's, in a weird way, like A Few Good Men, I think, is probably her worst performance in a great movie, because that Joe Galloway part is just a mess.
Yeah, it's tough. And it's crazy because her public life, she's such a big tabloid figure in terms of like who she's dating. And then there's the Ashton Kutcher. She's dating a younger guy. And that's like so much of the noise and the tabloid fodder around her is about her.
That was that's what the 2000s
and that kind of thing.
Yeah. That was later on. Yeah, that was her relevance.
Well, I mean, when she started dating Bruce Willis, that was about as A-listy as it got for a celebrity couple until we had Brad and Angelina. I really liked her. I think her and Douglas together, it made sense in the Douglas arc. Douglas was with, Kathleen Turner, strong, confident, beautiful, great actress. Glenn Close, crazy, confident actor who actually turns out to be crazy in the movie. Sharon Stone, all-time irrational confidence performance. But he was always at his best kind of playing off really strong actors like that. But what was this movie actually about, I think, is the real question. Because it's not a sexual harassment movie. It's actually this corporate intrigue thing.
Yeah.
And I think I had to see it like 5 times to understand what the plot actually was. And I'm still not positive I understand it.
I think Barry Levinson, the director, producer extraordinaire, who's like, I didn't realize he's like produced. Like he hasn't directed anything that's been like of any relevance, of like major relevance, pretty much since this. But like he's produced a lot of like TV and like TV movies that I've enjoyed. And it feels like he has opinions about corporate culture, these sort of titans of industry and what they're about. And what's funny is like when I hear Van talk about like the platitudes that Demi Moore is using at this like sort of shareholders meeting, where she's talking about this product and it's like, it's going to bring humanity together and all of these platitudes. And I think what the message of the movie is like, it's all crap. These people are just like the robber barons before them. They just want to make money. There's nothing different about this industry. But like when you hear some of the soaring rhetoric of especially early Zuckerberg and Jobs and Jeff Bezos and these guys, like they want the public to think that there's like this higher calling to this enterprise that they're pursuing. But realistically, like what does Instagram do? They've optimized selling us pants with 7 zippers, right? Amazon makes it so that you don't have to leave your house to get toilet paper. Like what did they actually do to change the world?
Apple's a hardware company.
This isn't like indoor plumbing or electricity. You know what I'm saying? Like the idea that these guys have done something to change humanity I think is BS. And I think Levinson, quite presciently, is like calling BS on this whole culture, like, which I think is very interesting. But again, the movie has too much to say about too many things. You know?
Yeah, I disagree, but that's a different podcast. So what?
Wait, you disagree with the point?
Yeah, I do.
What do you disagree with?
Well, I think that guys like Jobs, like, I think that there's a spectrum here, right?
Definitely.
Yeah, and so like, Steve Jobs and Wozniak invented the personal computer, basically. Like they had a different view of the world. They took like computing out of that, changed the world. Right? Sure. So like they took computing out of some place where the military was doing it and put a computer like in your home. That fundamentally changed the world. And I think if anything with Steve Jobs, he was chasing that high. And I think I'm not going to be like, I'm not like a tech bro, but I think he kind of did it again in many different ways.
The iPhone is definitely revolutionary.
Yeah, but what I would say, the thing about this movie is, I think he's right, but I think the movie doesn't have the balls to be about what it wants to be about. I think the movie shoehorns the corporate, but obviously it's based on
it's based on a book,
Michael Crichton book.
Who's got a difficult relationship with women, to say the least.
I think that this story wants to be a very direct indictment of workplace culture and harassment and no means no. It's having a conversation really that we're kind of still having. We act like we're the first generation to have the conversation about consent. We're the first generation to have the conversation about sexual harassment.
Yeah.
We're the first generation. No, it's been being had for a very, very long time. This movie kind of wants to be about that. But in order to get people to have that conversation in 1994,
throw the sex in there.
You got to throw a sex scene in there, and you got to give them some half-baked internet mumbo-jumbo corporate espionage to wrap it all up in, because what they're really talking about is whether or not the current workplace structures that they have can last women entering into them. Because at the end of the movie, the lady gets the job.
Yeah.
At the end of the movie, he gets patted on his butt. And his saving grace is that he's happy that a woman gets the job.
Well, the guy who creates the angel character, like one of his computer programmers, there's that scene in the middle of the movie when he's like, Douglas says, she got to you, didn't he? And he's like, what do you expect? They're smarter than us. Like, of course they're going to rule the earth. And the movie's really trying to dive into some of that stuff, but pretty casually. I agree with most of what Woz said, because this ties into an idealism that existed in that 92 to 95 range, where it's like Clinton takes over. We're going to have our version of JFK, right? All this good stuff is happening with technology. This is all the smart people, all the best and brightest are now going to drift here, and we're going to do it in Seattle and Silicon Valley, all these different places. And people were just really optimistic about stuff. And you kind of feel it in this movie. But what you said is right, because this is ultimately be a movie about Donald Sutherland doesn't want to lose money because he's merging. And he doesn't want to lose $100 million. He wants to make as much money as possible. There's some cockamamie scheme to frame Michael Douglas's character because he fucked up the product line.
But that's it. The only thing I would say about that is, I don't want to get bogged down, but the only thing I would say is that Donald Sutherland he's the devil of the movie. The virtue of the movie lies in the engineers and the people who are trying to create something that would actually change stuff.
You can't put those chips in the CD-ROMs by hand.
So, and again,
What?
and we're gonna get into, again, for me, what age is the best, and these different things, and a lot of it is my own biases, right? I think like the engineers and the technologists that Van are talking about, like the people who are actually like, the truest believers in who we would say the most meritocratic, like they deserve to be in these positions. In this world, they're not the ones who win. They're the ones who get trampled over. It's these corporate operators who end up winning. It's not the technically sound who you would assume in this technical industry.
The creators.
Yeah, the creators would be the ones, reaping all the benefits. Like, no, it's the same corporate sharks who reap all of the benefits. And the way that you get ahead in this world is to maneuver, is to be a mover, be an operator, and not be.
You love this.
I'm wondering, is this making you uncomfortable yet, Bill?
Not at all.
Well, is Bill a corporate maneuver? And Shark, is that what's happening? He's moving the chest.
I'm just looking right now to see when the sweat.
I'm like the CEO of Digicom.
I love this idea that Bill is the Donald Sutherland of the Ringer. He's moving the chess pieces.
Planning a merger. Here's the plot really quickly. The CEO, Sutherland, he wants to retire after the merger. Tom Sanders, the Douglas character, he thinks he's going to get promoted to run CD-ROMs. Demi Moore's character, Meredith, comes in. No, she's running it. We have the sex scene. Harassment stuff flies back and forth. First day. Harassment stuff flies back and forth. He figures out how to get his job back, and then he's being set up to be fired for cause. Somehow gets all of these incriminating things and then challenges her. And what really happened, which I think I figured out the 5th time I watched this movie, is she had fucked up originally with the product line, and she's trying to frame him because he was the only one who would be able to eventually figure out that she had fucked up.
Right.
Which, of course, raises the question, why even do the sexual harassment stuff? Why not just say from the get-go, you fucked up the product line? This is more than a nitpick. It's just like, how about just from the get-go, just blame him for the fact that the product line was fucked, and you don't have to like buy him the wine.
I mean, I have to be honest with you. I didn't make it to the end of the movie till at least like 1998. But I'll just be real with you. I'm serious. No idea. It was like, okay. But the overblown way in which they go about like just trying to make him look incompetent is so stupid.
The most convoluted, crazy attempt.
And then he becomes Ethan Hunt.
Yeah.
Like he legitimately goes into it, espionage, breaks into somebody's hotel room, the whole nine.
Nuts.
The movie just becomes a whole different film. Courtroom drama film.
Yes, there's a courtroom drama shoehorned in here.
And it's got that the great lawyer character that was a very like 1990s, that female attorney who's going to use hard copy. Like that was basically Leslie Abramson. Some really funny technology stuff in this movie too. So the technology stuff, which is one of the reasons this became a rewatchable movie, it starts in the beginning. When the little kid is like, Dad, you have an email. Dad, there's an email. That happens. The video link ups are like the whole concept of CD-ROMs being so incredibly important.
Yeah.
Just when was the last time a CD-ROM existed?
Man, when AOL sent the CD-ROM to the crib.
AOL 7.0.
I thought it was witchcraft. I'm like, yo,
futuristic.
It's crazy.
Just the idea that you could skip a song on a CD, like that you didn't have to press fast forward on something and like hope that you got it, right as the next song would start. You just press the button and a new song would start playing. It was just like,
so we have somebody getting an email being ominous in a movie. Where it's like his email, somebody would go to a computer and like the score would be like, dun dun. And then I guess they're saying the future is VR, being able to work virtually, but you have to be in some sort of crazy universe with gloves to go find your files.
Virtual reality was a big 90s obsession.
Yeah, like where's this going? It's almost like when flying cars were an obsession in the 60s. It was just
this idea that you would leave the physical world and spend so much time like sort of fully immersed in some alternate
and not in the office, which
universe.
by the way is kind of where we ended up during COVID.
That's why I was going to ask you, like watching this during COVID when we were living in a virtual society, like did it?
That's what I'm saying. I thought the movie was pretty good about like predicting future, just like the FaceTime element of it all.
Right.
Like, that's just seemed completely insane.
Which they stole from
idea.
Total Recall. I think Total Recall invented that.
Probably.
Remember the FaceTime on the TV?
Yeah.
Either that or the Usher, you don't have to call video.
Yeah, they had that too.
All of the technology and this stuff, like the digital communication, the sort of the idea that like people would want to leave the physical realm and like be completely lost somewhere else, whether they're doing their job or doing something else. And again, just like the creeping sense that this wasn't a good thing. That's what I felt like the movie was saying to me. Like, I know like this stuff seems new and exciting, but like the movie is very skeptical.
In a lot of ways, it's an art versus commerce movie.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways, it's a how do we break ground and use new technology to go to different frontiers.
Do something cool.
Right. And then who's going to profit from it? And is it going to be done in a way that's responsible or in a way that prioritizes doing something new and different? Like, I got the Vision Pro and I played around on the Vision Pro. And then the only thing that was super awesome about it was like, you guys are making judgments. That's not what I'm going to say. That's not what I'm going to say. I see both of the looks on your faces.
I just want to hear.
That's not what I'm going to say.
I'm just nervous.
I'm not going to say that. Watching NBA games on the Vision Pro is actually super duper
You can see the Lakers not play defense in a totally different way.
Why you gotta do that? Like what? What should you gotta let go in 2025, Bill? You gotta let go of vendettas.
Yeah.
We got like
I just love making fun of the Lakers.
Like,
How's that a vendetta?
It happens.
You love
every
making
time.
fun of shit.
Like what? Like what?
I don't know. What do you like making fun of?
The Celtics, but yeah. So like, but all of the things that the Vision Pro could do, and it's a very cool piece of
yeah.
But really, what I'm doing is watching NBA games on it, pulling the stats,
you'd be doing anyway,
doing all of that stuff. But it's more fun to do with somebody sitting right next to you.
Yeah.
It's more fun to do with Kalika, at your crib. It's more fun to do it that way. So I think we thought that we would be doing all of this amazing stuff with this technology. And don't get me wrong, there are people that are, but we're just kind of not. We're just kind of like passing the time with it, you know?
So Michael Crichton sold the movie rights for $1 million before the novel was published.
Wow.
Before the novel was published.
Big dog.
In the book, the difference is...
Wait, hold on for a second. He the motherfucking man.
That's
like he got $1 million.
He's like, I have this idea. Gives them the one paragraph description. They're like, here's $1 million.
Oh, man. Give it up to Big Kreitz, man.
So in the book, Tom obtains enough evidence, the Michael Douglas character, to overturn Meredith and Phil, and they both get fired. But the merger doesn't go through, and Tom doesn't receive his promotion. And then Meredith and Phil get better jobs somewhere else. So it's a little cynical.
Sure.
It's like this actually worked out for them. They're in a better spot. $50 million budget made $214 million.
Mammoth hit.
That's a smash.
Mammoth hit.
In 94.
People love Michael Douglas got his dick got him in trouble again. That's like all they had to do in the commercial campaign.
That's all I had to do for the trailer.
Yo,
for
I'm
me
telling
to
you,
get that $3.99 rental going.
The story of the movie was so robust. Like the story around the premise of the movie. It was like it was one of those things.
It was literally legitimately controversial.
Like one of those things that
the book was too.
They were talking about like on the Today Show. They were talking about it in. This is actually a movie where a woman sexually harasses a man. And I'll say something about Demi Moore. Is casting that part.
Yeah.
Is really
to make it believable.
To make it believable, the actress that has to play.
Well, we have a great casting with it for it because somebody else was supposed to get it. So we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, her sexual magnetism has to be like,
but also
the
strength that she can dominate a man and turn heel.
It's a great part.
Yeah.
Crichton was saying that the reason he did it this way was because everyone would know the other way. If it was the female that was being sexually harassed, it's like people... The flipping it.
Oh, that's what he said. Why he did it?
Well, I'm just reporting.
So
he said the flipping it was what made it interesting because it made people kind of reevaluate what sexual harassment was.
Yeah, I mean,
but it's also what made it so controversial.
I've never read the book. Talking to Sean outside before we came in here, he's like, the book is a little bit less ambiguous. It's like this woman is pure evil, and she's come to ruin this poor great dad's life. Whereas the movie, which
is very similar to the Fatal Attraction theme.
I don't think the movie is that 2D. I think this character is a little bit more 3D in terms of her ambitions and
at the end.
Yeah,
throughout the at the end they humanize her a little bit, but she is straight up Lucifer incarnate. She's lying, and then even when they catch her in the lie, she doesn't pivot back. She doesn't say "my bad for lying."
she doubles down.
Like, and then at the end, you start to realize that she kind of is a woman that's getting grinded up in the boys' club and is trying to survive it.
That's that's why I think the movie's a little bit more three-dimensional. I think what they're trying to say is like, there's no other way to be a CEO. Like, the way that you are one of these corner office executives is like, if somebody crosses you, you kill them. That's it. And you bring the power of the institution to bear on that person. You rally your big dogs around you and you kill them. And that's what she tried to do. And I think, to me, the movie is just saying, this is exactly what a man would do in this position. There's like quotes where there's like, when did I have the power?
Right.
She had the power. Like, the movie is making
when he starts yelling at the maid. That's one of the funniest scenes. He yells at the maid, "Hey, come on down here. I have the power." Roger Ebert, not impressed by this movie.
Really?
2 stars.
Wow.
He wrote, "It is an exercise in pure cynicism with little respect for its subject or for its thriller plot, which I defy anyone to explain. The theme is basically a launch pad for sex scenes. And yet the movie is so sleek, so glossy, so filled with possesso porn that you can enjoy it like a sharper image catalog that walks and talks."
Jesus Christ. He was not feeling this movie.
Insanely well written. I'll tell you this, though. Watching the movie now, it is, with just everything and the way things are now, and like kind of where I'm at, it is very unhorny. I mean, it's horny at the beginning, but it, for all intents and purposes, blows its whole wad after that scene, and then there is no more sexuality in the movie whatsoever, and that is the entire rest of the movie. This movie isn't in any way, to me, an erotic thriller. It has
it doesn't throw in like the sex scene with his wife where he starts to get carried away in it, or
Janine
nothing.
Triple Horn sex scene.
Nothing.
Like, none of that stuff happens that the rest of the erotic thrillers all have. It doesn't exist in this one.
All right, we're going to most rewatchable scenes. Today's the most rewatchable scene, brought to you by Paramount Plus. This holiday season, your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to watch every Mission Impossible on Paramount Plus. Van might do this. Catch up on the greatest action franchise of all time, starring Tom Cruise, of course. Now streaming on Paramount Plus. All right, rewatchable scenes.
I'll do that right after I finish watching everything Taylor Sheridan has ever made, every second of it.
I'm right there with you.
Are you caught up on Landman?
No, not yet.
Landman's great.
Yeah.
All right, first rewatchable scene. Tom finds out he might be out of a job. Just throwing that in there. Second one. Tom and Meredith see each other for the first time right into Douglas angrily telling his staff about it, which features some of the funniest workplace banter.
So good.
You can't even believe it.
It's so good.
You can't. It's just like you're watching it going, oh my God, like there's 19 different lines in this scene that would be an HR violation.
100%. I had that as a rewatchable scene when he realizes he got passed over, and he goes and tells his like sort of team or whatever, and they just start basically debating feminism.
Right, out of nowhere.
That's what they're doing. They're going back and forth, and Dennis Miller's like, the typical guy, like
he's doing the wisecracking.
The
Dennis
redhead
Miller
is the avatar for the cool chick in the office.
Yes,
who can
she can talk like the guys.
And also just like the avatar for like the new American workplace. There's like this woman who is an engineer and she went to school for it and she knows her stuff just as well as anybody else, but she's explaining to her male colleagues the difficulties of being a woman in these environments, and everybody being like, yeah, get over it, whatever. I love that scene.
Next scene. Tom goes to have a drink with Meredith.
Yeah.
Stop by the office around 7. Picked out a bottle of wine for us.
Yeah.
The radar gun I had for Demi in this scene.
Yeah.
Around Chapman range. It's
Yeah,
like
oh,
she
no,
was
it's
throwing
nuts.
108.
It's nuts.
108. She's so good in this scene.
I say, because there's no nudity in the scene.
No.
It is the hottest non-nude sex scene ever.
Wow.
It's there's no.
We'll be back on the Mr. Skin podcast after this.
Been a member since been a member for a long time, but and maybe it shouldn't be, because I think that's part of the scene. Part of the scene is that if those roles are reversed, you're not in any way supposed to find that appealing.
Yeah.
If those roles are reversed and it's the man that is pushing up, the scene is kind of an indictment of the viewer in a way too. Because she's being so aggressive and she won't take no for an answer, honestly, there's a part of that is there's a part of that that's hot. And so you're supposed to feel a little nasty after you realize that this is a married guy.
Well, you know they have their history though too, because she's playing the history piece of it. Like, come on, for old time's sake.
And I think why I find the movie to be interesting is that the way they deploy it is that like Michael Douglas kind of wants it. That's what I think.
Well, she says, "Rub my shoulders and I'll listen to your problems." He's like, "All right, I'll rub your shoulders."
You know, he's like,
but there's a familiarity there to where it wasn't coming from someone whose shoulders he's never rubbed before.
100%.
Right.
And he just keeps going and going and going.
Well, you left out the part. She's like, "Let me see some photos of the fam," and he's showing her, and she says something. He goes, "Well, she never lost the weight from the second baby." And it's like,
she just straight up looks at her and goes, "She looks like she always keeps food in the refrigerator." I'm like, God damn.
Killer.
She's like, the only thing in my refrigerator is a bottle of champagne and an orange. I'm like, okay, you trying to say my wife fat?
Yeah.
Then she starts doing the remember all the things we did.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, yeah, I actually do. And then
that was a very common trope back in the day. Like old
girlfriend
comes back.
Yeah, the old flame starts
remember the ice cubes
flaming.
and all of that stuff. Yeah.
So then we just get going, and a lot of dirty talk. Doesn't really work out. We do get this is Van. Waz knows I'm going to do this.
Mm-hmm.
We have this. We have single weight female.
Yeah.
Which are in the finals of guy getting a blowjob, pretending he doesn't want one, but he's also enjoying it, and started to, I think single white female is better.
It's better because
he knows who it is. He's like, and then I'll finish.
But then after the single white female, he gets
like it's a shoe in the eye.
Yeah, he gets angry.
Yeah.
He gets like self-righteous.
Yeah.
Oh, you don't have to tell her because I'm gonna tell her. Yeah, you're gonna tell your girlfriend the next day that her roommate gave you a blowjob, but you didn't know it was her.
Yeah.
Good luck,
no
dog.
shot.
You knew it was me. So he gets out of there. She has the classic line.
Hold on, before that, like the point that I love, the reason why he stops, he somehow looks at his reflection in like a glass or something. He's like, "Is that
I
classic,
look like a wild animal?"
Looking in the mirror, and he's just like, "Oh,
easiest great shot Gordo of all time.
What am I doing?" You know, he's like, "What am I doing?"
Mm-hmm.
And then he stops, and yeah, she some of the shit
You stick your dick in my mouth, and then you get an attack of morality.
It's a good line. It's a good line.
He responds, "I have a family now."
Yeah.
What? You get back here and you finish what you started. That scene is fucking batshit crazy. It is batshit crazy.
She walks out.
Yeah, with her bra
Demi,
still.
she's in her bra. She's leaning over.
Yeah.
She's
Get back here.
The hottest, guys, there's no other way to say it. The hottest woman in Hollywood at the time. You could maybe make an argument for Sharon Stone or whomever, whatever. Begging for a guy to come back into the office and have disgusting, nasty sex with her. It's just an unbelievably magnetic scene.
Yeah.
And and if you're Demi Moore, you gotta give it all to that scene. And she's does.
Great. Next rewatchable, Dennis Miller on the double date with Douglas. Just blowing his cover.
Unbelievable.
Doing Dennis Miller lines. You see, this was my big shot, asshole. It's not like I'm getting scouted by the NBA.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know if they just let him write all his lines. They all sound like things Dennis Moore say,
who got to you?
and then the wife sticks up for him.
Yeah.
I love that.
So yeah,
Ride
he
or
told
die.
me.
Yeah.
So
Love that.
let's just have a nice evening. It's
Yeah.
like, I'm pretty sure the evening's been ruined.
Yeah. Yeah. But
and
she's a ride or die. We love
and
that.
then that also leads to Tom getting mad at her after about the whole thing. And
so that was one of my like when he actually comes clean to his wife and she just like goes down the list of like how much of a fuck up this guy is.
yeah,
She's reading him the riot act. I just thought that was very well done.
he does. His response is, sexual harassment is about power. When did I have the power? When? Barry Levinson, outro music. Next scene.
Let's go.
Tom's sexual harassment deposition is hilarious.
Oh my God. That
Were you
lawyer
aroused?
dude
Yes.
is excellent.
Yeah, he's got the lawyer dude. Yeah.
Both lawyers. Very
Really
smart
good
in this
lawyers.
situation.
Yeah, you're right.
He has a female lawyer.
Yes.
Yeah.
And she
He
has
has the typical old male boys club lawyer.
So would a gynecologist get an erection when he sees?
Great question.
Just like, oh,
That
it's just
is
playing
a
all the hits.
great
It's a
question.
very squirmy scene. And then Meredith's deposition,
Baby in the
when they
woods.
find the 91 Pahlmeyer
Mhm.
and
Oh my
they
God,
realize
so
it's
good.
not sold within 500 miles
Yeah,
or
yeah.
whatever. That's really
That's a
good.
bit of a baby wine guy. I was proud of that moment. It's like, how were you gonna get a wine from 4 years ago or 3 years ago, whatever it was, at your local store 3 days ago?
But see,
No
these
shot.
that's
Good legal stuff.
that's the legal stuff. That's the courtroom drama stuff.
The next one is when he finally somehow gets the tape, which we'll talk about later in nitpicks, and they play the tape, and she knows she's cooked,
Yeah.
and then she turns into
In
femme
an instant.
fatale.
Yeah.
Haven't you ever said no and meant yes, Mrs. Alvarez?
Mm.
It's like, oh, okay, we're going here now.
Like literally, like that
Sometimes no means the person wants to be overwhelmed.
that's the equivalent.
We're recording this.
That's the equivalent of the Sharon Stone interrogation scene. from
100%.
Basic Instinct. Yeah.
And then she has the big speech, which Craig's going to play now, that ends with, we expect a woman to do a man's job, make a man's money, and then walk around with a parasol and lie down for a man to fuck her like it was still 100 years ago. Well, no, thank you.
Classic. So good.
And for me, we still haven't hit the best scene in the movie yet because we get Tom sneaking into the hotel room to get the VR files.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, this becomes a Star Trek movie for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's VR. He almost falls over into the VR cliff.
And you know what's funny?
The special effects are so bad. And then the Demi Moore 3D avatar jump scare.
Yeah.
Out of nowhere, she comes in like,
She's in the system.
oh my God,
Like,
she's deleting the files.
It's the fucking lawnmower man. Even when I fucking watch that scene, I'm thinking, look how like harrowing that is. He almost falls off the thing. I do that for fun at home. It's a game on the Oculus called Frank's Plank
But you got
Adventure.
the Oculus and the Vision Pro?
I'll go in, baby. It is called Frank's Plank Adventure. And the funniest thing is like watching people play it because you're walking across a plank between two gigantic skyscrapers, but you're in the VR. So the people that are walking across your living room are legitimately doing like this. They're scared. Some people cry and get down. So all of that technology, we used it for bullshit.
Right.
I'm telling you, we used it to have a good time with it.
Not to get files.
Not to get files.
Not to get
and
files.
change the world and espionage with the angels and all of that
Make sure
stuff.
you don't get fired from your company.
Shout out to Demi Moore's I'm angrily using my computer face.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. She's fired up.
I love that scene. It's so stupid. I also love, I had this on What's Age the Best, this device that really was only in the 90s when somebody needed to get into somebody's hotel room and they would just call and be like, hey, I need my roommate up. It's 3:11. I'm like, sure thing, sir. And then you just walk into the room and the maid's like, hello, sir.
He didn't even know his views. Like,
I promise this doesn't work in real life.
Yeah, that's the room.
I always have questions about this because I wonder, like,
Could anyone do this? Because they do it in Pacific Heights too. Melanie Griffith gets in there.
Yeah, like people could get in their rooms and the security seemed to be lax.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if room service is doing your room, the door is just open. How do they know who's actually staying there?
Well, the big stockholder meeting showdown. Demi gets fired.
Yeah.
Tough.
Unrealistic, but fun to watch. And then the ending, Stephanie gets the job. Turns out she was a friend all along.
Right. Who could have saw that coming?
Counting on you to be my right hand, Tom.
We haven't even talked about
Talks about the son.
The A friend
situation. Are
situation.
you a chemistry major? Yeah, I am. Happy music. Tom's got his job back and his family's still there.
Yeah.
Demi Moore's out of a job.
And women won.
And that's it.
There's one scene you're leaving out.
Okay.
By far the most hilarious scene in the movie. It's not even close. This is the funniest scene in the movie. The dream sequence.
I had that in What Stage the Worst because I hate it. Donald Sutherland making a move on him.
Bro.
So good.
Bro. That is so funny.
What is that suit made out of?
What is that suit made out of, Tom? And all of a sudden, Tom he's grabbing Tom.
Dude, his mouth is wide open. His tongue is sticking out into the camera.
It's brutal.
And then it hit Tom.
It's a good jump scare.
Ah!
Yeah. So what do we have for most rewatchable?
Oh, come on.
Oh, I know Van's answer.
Yeah, this is the sex scene.
Okay.
It is.
Right,
I
fine.
mean, it made Van's mixtape for a reason.
Yeah.
I love the VR hotel room. Makes me laugh.
It is very funny as well.
Next category. What's the most 1994 thing about this movie other than all the sexual harassment and workplace stuff that we talked about? I'll give you some nominees.
Sure.
Dad, you got an email. There's one. The Jeep Cherokee.
Ben doesn't read your emails.
No, he
to
doesn't.
you out
Dad!
loud.
The Jeep Cherokee is very 1990s.
Super. It was the dream car for me at that time.
1990 Seattle.
They had
Put me in the Sean Kemp singles.
they had literally a Ghost
early
Sonics.
Starbucks. Yeah.
Love that.
Dennis Miller just being cast as an actor, working as a computer programmer in Michael Douglas's group. We have him coming up later.
I enjoyed it.
But I think the casual sex harassment. Him's hitting the assistant with the files on her butt.
That's by
Great
far.
job. I think that's the single most 1994 thing about the movie.
It's that, and it's just the way that they're talking about sex. It's just a way that we just don't do that in public ever. These days.
Oh, Van thinks it's coming back.
I think it is too. As long as we get the Craig Horlbecks out of the way, so we can have fun again.
I know the fun police. What Stage the best? Speaking of Dennis Miller, I like when movies bring in comedians, and this was a great Dennis Miller. This is my favorite stretch of Dennis Miller. I loved his HBO show. I liked when he's in this. I liked when he's in The Net.
He was in The Net too, yeah.
But I like when they bring the people in and just let them kind of cook as themselves.
The thing was, hey, this movie's not very funny.
Yeah.
Just come in for
Just
4
do
or
your
5
thing.
scenes.
Yeah.
Give us a little funny. Get your check. Go home.
She doesn't give you a boner because she's definitely giving me liftoff. Just like all these like cliche Dennis Miller just ripped them off. They were really smart when Meredith shows up for this is another What Stage the Best of making Tom kind of undercutting him. Like they have that one part when he sits at the table and he's in the smallest chair. She makes fun of his tie and he kind of looks down like he's just off balance for the first
When
5
he
minutes.
sits in the small chair, that's another funny scene in the movie.
Oh yeah.
And he's just below everyone.
Yeah.
He was starting the day, because this takes place over like a week.
Right.
Yeah.
So he's starting the day on a high.
And we know this because they start each day with Monday.
Yeah. Bong.
And
It's
so
like The Shining.
he starts the day on such a high, and he just gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller throughout the day.
I have a couple more. Do you have any What Stage the Best?
Yeah, for me, it's definitely like the corporate culture portrayal. The Dylan Baker character, Philip
We haven't talked
Blackburn,
about it, yeah.
like that, like typical corporate blunt instrument machine where like he's just not a human being. He's just a freaking automaton, basically. Like, for instance, like Van comes into our office. Whenever he's here, he's like humanizing the situation. Let's talk. Let's engage. Let's have some human connection.
This is nice. This is a nice moment for you guys.
It's what
very much,
happens.
yeah.
This movie shows you what the typical corporate culture is, which is like leave your humanity at the freaking door. And I thought that's for me, that's what aged the best about the movie.
The conversation about consent when they had it was like verbatim the conversations that we ended up. They literally have a conversation in the movie about living consent. That the idea that consent is born at any time and it dies at any time. And when we started having that conversation again, when I say we, I mean us as a society, during the Me Too movement, it was sometimes positions as if it was the first time, like I said before, that conversation had ever been had.
Yeah.
And it wasn't. And so when I saw that, I was like, it might be good for us to remind ourselves that we've been talking about this stuff for a long time.
Yeah.
And maybe you don't put it on any specific generation or any specific group of people. And you remember that these things are things that we're socially legislating, and we should continue to socially legislate them until we get them right.
This was a 90s movie thing, though. And we did, like, Wesley and I did Philadelphia for Rewatchables, same thing. It was like Hollywood knowing there were these big, important topics that they needed to hit, being super clumsy about it, but hitting a bunch of it anyway. And then other parts where you're like, oh, why'd they do that? But
so that's another thing to Van's point that I think the movie does a good job of predicting this sort of white male angst, where like the identitarian way that we do everything now.
Like that guy in the train in the beginning.
100%. And
that's
he's talking about, they got like women in the workplace or all of that. All of these anxieties to the point where, when Tom is yelling at his wife in the kitchen, and he literally says, "I'm that evil white straight male." Like they're predicting the freaking discourse that's happening over and over and over again in our current society about like, the white straight male being basically like the devil's avatar, right? This movie's doing that, predicting that.
What are you looking at me for? Moore would say it's the best. The elevator opening and Demi Moore, and she just goes, going down.
Oh. Bro.
And he doesn't know whether he should get it or not. She's at just a couple great entrances with her.
Yeah, man.
I really love the sneaking into somebody's hotel room to get information and then juxtaposed with the person on their way up to the room and not knowing if they're going to get out in time. Yeah, that always works for me. I also am always into the guy who comes home after obviously some sort of adultery moment has happened. It's like, I'm just going to take a quick shower.
Bro.
If I came home, barely talked to my wife, I was like, just quick shower, I'll be right back. My wife would be like, what the hell happened? I'm checking you for scratch marks.
This was one of my biggest nitpicks. D-Ray Davis, shout out D-Ray Davis. D-Ray Davis has a ridiculously funny stand-up bit about this. He goes, if you're gonna be out there, you're gonna be cheating on your girl, messing around with your girl, you just need to take showers all the time, at random times. He was just
banging out 10 o'clock every day.
Take showers all the time, random times, and then when you come home
an alibi,
and you get in the shower and she asks you about it, you can be like, "Girl, I take showers all the time."
Right.
But he comes home, he goes. He sends her on an errand.
Yeah.
Like, go get me a beer. So get away from the stink of Meredith.
Yeah.
And the smell of wine on my breath. And the Wolverine scar I got. I'm going to get in the shower Wolverine scar.
Well, there's some good filmmaking in this movie because he's in the shower and he's got the scratch marks. And then the wife comes in and he's just like, and then he has to get out. He has the towel. And it's just, he's just trying to hide the scratches for 2 minutes. It's compelling.
And then you think,
why are you wearing a t-shirt?
You know that he's in it up to his ears, and the wife goes, like, who's Meredith? And you're like, oh my God, what?
Yeah.
And she goes, Meredith just called, and you were, hey, dog, think of something. Like, think of something to say. That whole scene is really good.
Here's that's it. That's all I got. Because we talked about the other stuff. The Fortune 3 Clap Award for most gifable moment. I honestly, the Demi Moore evil 3D avatar, I might have to start working into stuff.
There's a moment at the end where, at the last board meeting where he basically lays out the case that she, is an idiot and incompetent. She's the one that actually needs to be fired, and he mouths the word bye-bye to her.
Oh, that would be a good one.
That'd be a nice...
I gotta go.
Should I send that to the Lakers fan blog after they give up 40 tonight to Atlanta?
Like, mine is when she is leaning over the balcony when she just comes out of the room and she's going like, get back here.
Yeah.
That's mine.
Okay. Just for your own personal pleasure.
No, I'm just saying that's a good gift.
Great shot order award, most cinematic shot. You already did it. I do like the escalator scene when they have the tape and they're going up and Demi Moore kind of knows something's up. And they ride up, they're going up, and then you see them behind, and she's just kind of like,
There's another shot for me. It's like her first scene in the movie, like, before we see her, it's just a shot of her shoes. And Michael Douglas, like, looking down, and he's like, wait a second. Who is this?
Yeah.
And then she's revealed, and then we're off to the races.
Den of Thieves Benihana Award, scene steal and location. That office building, which they built for the movie.
Oh, from scratch.
Built from scratch, because Levinson wanted a set that had all glass so people could see what each other was doing, and he just felt like, so they built it, and
they still
it's really good.
It was still on a $50 million budget. They built a whole office set. Did they shoot in Seattle?
Yeah.
Huh.
We rarely get to give out either of these awards, and I'm going to do both of them. The Elizabeth Shue is an Oxford Electrochemist Award, and the Vincent Chase Award for Are We Sure This Character Was Actually Good at His Job. Both goes to Meredith. She's a former Miss Teen New Mexico, now working as a higher-up in Malaysian conduit for a computer technology company. I'm going to say it's a stretch.
It's tough.
Not into it.
No.
We don't know what happened after. She might have went to like MIT or something.
Maybe.
But not.
And again,
sure.
That's what, again, the movie wants you to think is like, it's not that she's some excellent worker. She's an operator and a mover. And like, you know, the older woman who eventually gets it, like when her and Tom are sitting there and they're watching this woman's, Demi Moore's ascent. And basically, like, she's like, yeah, I got passed over too. I've been here longer. I'm more tenured. I'm more qualified. But this person came in and stole the show.
Well, here's the case for her not being good at her job. She completely fucked up the product, right? She was like, yeah, let's use the cheaper stuff and we won't tell people. And then the product got delayed. Then she comes up with this crazy scheme to frame her ex-lover in a sexual harassment thing so that she could then blame it on him, I guess, for incompetence.
Then she's on tape visiting the line.
Yeah.
And she can't, she acts like, she's got to act like she's never seen.
Terrible. Bad at her job. The Big Kahuna Burger Award, Best Use of Food or Drink. The 91 bottle, 91 Pahlmeyer. Just huge.
Perfect.
Okay.
When she hands him the glass, and he's like, wow, you got this on deck. And she's like, I like to keep the boys below me happy.
Yeah.
It's just too good.
Butch's Girlfriend Award, weak link of the film. For me, we already mentioned it. I don't know why they had to do like, if you're actually just fundamentally looking at this as a movie, you don't need to do the sexual harassment plot. You just blame him for the CD-ROMs being fucked up, blindside him at the end, and he gets fired.
But the reality is, if you don't do the sexual harassment plot, you
don't have a movie.
You don't have a movie.
You don't have a poster. You don't have an ad campaign.
I hate to say this, but the weak link of the movie is the wife.
Oh, I had her in What's Age the Worst.
Yeah.
Really?
Oh,
why do you say that?
I told Carrie when I was about to come to work today, I was like, there's a take that Van's going to have that maybe I've worked with Van too long, but I know exactly what the take's going to be. So go ahead.
Like the wife is the weak link of the movie, right? Okay, because number one, she can't really feel, she doesn't really know. She's not in Demi Moore's league, right? And she gets it and she understands that. But she doesn't really add anything in any way. She wants to be a ride or die, but then at the same time, she's being a nagging gag, which we don't like.
Yeah.
And then like, she doesn't really, part of me is like, he should have gone with Demi Moore and formed the power couple. Like,
I have that coming up.
A sliding
something
doors?
like that.
So my issue with her was I didn't feel like she was pissed off enough.
Yeah,
especially like the one deposition where Demi Moore's like, I remember I told him that he said his wife hadn't lost the baby weight yet.
So if we're comparing her to Triple Horn or to
Triple Horn's another one.
Well, but Triple Horn was different though. Triple Horn in Basic Instinct was a constant reminder of who he really was.
Right.
The wife here doesn't really do that. She kind of vacillates back and forth, and then she's out of the movie.
Doesn't seem to know his history either.
If I have a charitable view of what the movie's trying to do with this sexual harassment thing, it's like we think dudes are too Neanderthal in nature to understand sexual harassment at a high level. So let's turn the tables and make it a dude who's being sexually harassed and can't do anything about it, right? And so it's like your job and your higher ups are coming after you, and then there's the people closest to you like, well, did you really? Like, maybe you made the person think that you kind of did want it.
Yeah.
It's kind of sounding
that's
like
what
you
Dennis Miller did. Why'd you go up there?
That's what it felt like the wife was doing, which like at first she believed it, but then when she sat in the deposition, it's like, maybe you did want it. Maybe that's what I felt like her role was. It's like even the people closest to you start questioning your integrity and whether you deserved it or not.
The Dennis Miller thought was something, I just be honest with you, the Dennis Miller thought was something that people had been talking about, because I remember in an actual real case, which was Mike Tyson's case with Desiree Washington, there was he had invited her up there. It was like 2:00, and they were gonna play board games or something like that. And none of this excuses anything. But I remember people having the argument about why would you go to somebody's room at that time? It's a poor argument to have, but that was Dennis Miller's utility.
It was a 90s argument.
It was a 90s argument,
She was a little too dutiful, the wife, and a little too forgiving. Especially near the end. I just feel like there would have been a scene where I don't know, she asked him for some coffee, or he asked her for some coffee, and she's just mad. She's like, why didn't you ask your whore to get the coffee? You put your dick in her mouth. And just like she just starts screaming at him for no reason. Right. Which definitely probably happens.
As somebody who's been chewed out a time or two by a significant other, I tend to agree with you. Maybe a little bit too lenient.
What's age the worst? Just CD-ROMs being a crucial plot point.
Yeah.
I had the Donald Sutherland trying to kiss me nightmare. The full circle moment where at the end the assistant slaps Michael Douglas on the ass. It's like, oh, we've come full circle. Terrible moment.
We all do it.
The ending email. Daddy, we miss you. A family. So corny. Right. I would have told Levinson, like, dude,
get that
let's
out.
just end it when she's
the movie Horseshoes that way. It starts like a Disney movie and ends like one.
A friend being Arthur Friend, tacky. Any other What's Age the Worst?
The Sonics, man. And when I saw that Ghost Sonics, I was like,
that could also been a What's Age the Best.
Yeah.
Seattle loves the Sonics. They still do.
The Ruffalo Hannah Rubinek Partridge overacting word. Douglas wins it multiple times.
You think it's Douglas?
Who do you think it is?
Donald Sutherland.
Interesting.
He's too cartoonishly
evil. What about him yelling when he's yelling at his wife and he yells at the maid, "Come on down here!
Listen,
I'm gonna sexually harass
it's white
you."
male rage. I don't think that's
So you go Sutherland.
I go Sutherland because in that scene where they're talking about crushing Tom, and he's like, "We want to crush him," and then he grabs his subordinate's dick.
Yeah,
like, that is a moment.
Come on,
I'm gonna zag. I think it's Dylan Baker. And because he is so swarmy.
Yeah.
He is, from the moment he steps into frame, you're like, that's the guy I'm not supposed to like.
Right.
He is laying it on.
We're friends?
Yeah.
Was there a better title for this movie? No.
Nah, it's perfect.
Can you dig it a word for most memorable quote? I think we know what it is.
Yeah. Bill, give it to us, Bill.
The CR thinks Luke Wilson could have been Harrison Ford. How does take a word? Mine I already gave. I think Demi Moore's two best roles ever were Sid Almost Fire in this movie.
I love that take. Mine is Michael Douglas, and not Frank Sinatra is actually the coolest man who's ever lived.
Just for being able to pull off these roles over and over again?
Like, I believe that these women want to fuck him.
Yeah.
And I believe that this guy has a burning desire to fuck these women. Yeah. Every single, like, it's in him. It's pouring out of this guy. Like, he's just thirsty. And then, of course, he marries Catherine Zeta-Jones. Like, bro.
Well, he's probably the number one actor ever where you're watching the sex scene thinking, like, I wonder if they actually, like, fucked her in this.
So this is it's almost yours, but it's different. Like, mine is that I think he is a stone cold freak in real life.
Yeah.
Remember when he got mouth cancer from, like, remember that?
Yeah.
He's a stone cold freak in real life. That's why he is so good.
As a freak?
In these roles. There's a version of the American president. I've always said that. There's a version of that's an erotic thriller.
Cheating American president?
That's even better. An even better version of the movie. That
you know why we know he's a freak? Because of the Basic Instinct scene when he just walks to the bathroom naked and the director is like, "Yo, Michael, we can kind of see your balls swaying during this." And he's like, "Let it fly, man. Keep it in. Keep it in. Sounds great." Hey, Roxy, let's have a talk, man to man. Casting what ifs. Milos Forman originally attached to direct.
Interesting.
But left due to creative differences, and then Levinson got hired. So originally set to play Meredith, Annette Bening.
Doesn't work.
Got pregnant and dropped out, and then ended up making American President with him a year later.
Beautiful. Fantastic actress. Probably pound for pound a better actress than Demi Moore, but it doesn't quite work.
No, she can't. No.
Demi Moore ended up getting it over Gina Davis and Michelle Pfeiffer.
Pfeiffer would have worked.
Pfeiffer could have worked.
Pfeiffer would have worked.
I don't know if she does it at that point in her career.
Yeah.
She's in her I Gotta Save Kids Out of High School while Coolio song plays phase of her career.
The woman from Scarface?
Yeah.
80s Michelle Pfeiffer.
Yeah.
Well, Fabulous Baker Boys, Michelle Pfeiffer.
And then Michael Crichton wrote the character because he knew they were going to turn the book into a movie as he was writing it because he's like, I got this. And he wrote the character Mark for Dennis Miller in his head as he was writing
That's
it.
dope.
Oh, okay.
Well, it's always a pleasure to give this award out. The Van Lathan Award. Did this movie need more black people?
It had one guy that I saw sitting behind somebody. And he literally, so one guy was sitting behind him, and I could tell that whoever this extra was or this day player was trying to let his people back in Cincinnati know that he was in the movie.
Yeah.
Because he's sitting behind her and he's like, he's trying to look, and he's trying to see. He's getting it like he's trying to look when they're at the thing. And the black guy that they had in it was one too many. Like, we need to stay
that was my answer too. No,
we need to stay out of all
we didn't
of
need
this
any
business.
black people in any of involved in any of this stuff.
Best that guy award. The nerdy guy on Douglas's team who played Angel, whatever.
Oh, yeah.
His
He's
name's
good.
Nicholas Sadler. I
yeah.
know that guy from different movies. I don't even know where else I've seen him, but he's like a great that guy.
The son, the Conley Jr. dude. The son of the CEO comes in and he's like doing all the talking.
Yeah, he's one of those guys.
He's that guy.
Is Dylan Baker
Joe Erla is his name.
Is Dylan Baker that guy or is Dylan Baker
Dylan Baker's Dylan Baker.
For me, he's that guy.
Yeah.
Because I had to Google his name.
Deion Waiters award. I don't know if Tom's lawyer is in it too much, but she's a candidate.
Yeah, it's the two lawyers for me. Both
the
lawyers
other lawyer, angry, semi-sexist laid off guy in the ferry in the first scene.
Oh, yeah. He's good.
My pick would be Dennis Miller. I think he's not in it quite enough. And every time he comes in, he's fucking
definitely
throwing
the most
sliders and
spirit
curveballs.
of the award.
The movie
for sure.
needs him. Otherwise, it's a pretty stiff movie.
He clinched it during the scene at the dinner where he tries to out Michael Douglas to his wife. That's where he clinched it. And then, by the way, at the end, all of Michael Douglas's people turn on him. Did she get to you? Did she get to you? Did she get to you? And then at the end,
he's fine with it.
They boys again.
Yeah. Recasting couch director City. I think this would have been an amazing David Fincher movie, and he wasn't quite David Fincher
dark.
yet.
Dark.
But if it's David Fincher in the late 90s, maybe even The Game David Fincher just being given this movie.
We got Michael Douglas.
Which The Game's only 3 years after this. But I think this would... I think in Fincher's hands, this movie is like one of the great 90s movies.
Yeah, I think of freaky directors like De Palma. I think
De Palma would have been good too.
He might have took this over the.
Oh, there would have been more
edge.
sex. Yeah,
crazy,
you know,
there would have been a following scene throughout Seattle where he's just following Demi Moore around the city.
I think the movie's definitely a lot freakier if De Palma does it, but like
because Levinson was not. He was like
That's
did
not
the
his
natural.
style. Like,
he did Diner.
Yeah, like
Rain Man.
The movie has a brightness to it and a lightness to it. Like that it probably shouldn't have, honestly.
We probably should have talked about Levinson more because he was one of the big commercial directors of really mid 80s through the 90s, peaking with Rain Man, which won just about every award. And it was a big deal when he was directing this movie.
But even that movie,
I don't know if this was I don't feel like Barry Levinson is a horny guy.
No, even that movie, Rain Man, is dealing with some like unbelievably heavy subject matter. But there's a lightness to his touch that makes the movie palatable to a much, much larger audience. And this movie kind of didn't need that. But if honestly, if it is Fincher, it maybe doesn't make $250 million. Or
well, he basically makes this with Gone Girl, right? It's a version
Something
of
like
this
that.
same
It's a
kind of
version
movie.
of
But we've changed at that point.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm looking on his IMDb and stuff that he's produced, and it's like a lot of TV shows that I've personally enjoyed, like Monsieur Spade and Dope Sick.
He was
and
involved in
the
Homicide.
Immortal
Yeah.
Shades of Blue. With Ray Liotta and J-Lo, where Ray Liotta is just like an insane, corrupt NYPD cop, and J-Lo's trying to like keep it together as his like partner and team member.
I just told you.
What?
1992, Liotta's last movie. I watched it on an airplane on the way to Denver. Tyrese.
And
Ray Liotta, Clint Eastwood's son.
Scott Eastwood, yeah.
There's a heist, and it's not very good, and I loved it.
Bill loved it.
I loved it for an airplane on a small square. Was perfect.
I didn't realize that you were such a Tyrese guy.
I like Tyrese.
Yeah.
I think he's had some good actor moments. Is that like controversial opinion?
No. He just kind of made himself into a caricature of
but I think there was more talent there than
definitely a talented cat. But
he's having a great career. He's
as a public figure,
a funny guy.
Every time we talk about any black actor, Van always gets a look on his face like, I'm going to be hearing from him later when we.
Van knows these people personally.
But I mean, Tyrese has had he's one of those guys that's had a sneaky, underrated movie career.
Yeah, I don't even know if it's sneaky.
Yeah, I think it's true.
Yeah, he's in the Fast franchise.
Fast franchise.
But I thought Baby Boy, he's really good in that movie.
Bill, you've never seen Baby Boy.
What the fuck? Of course I've seen Baby Boy.
Baby
Boy's a real movie. Yeah, that's a crossover movie. Come on.
It's a crossover.
I think Paid in Full is actually
movies.
You think it's a crossover?
So how about this? Can you commit to the Baby Boy rewatchables?
Let's lock
I haven't seen it in a long time.
Let's lock that in.
See what I'm saying?
I saw it in the theater though.
You saw Baby Boy in the theater?
I didn't have a lot going on in the 90s.
I fuck with Baby Boy. I love Baby Boy. That's just not, when you think of the Singleton movies that you would have saw in the theaters, I wouldn't have thought that
Poetic Justice was first day because of Tupac.
Oh, yeah, first, yeah.
And also it was so close to Boys in the Hood. Like that was like an event.
But John Singleton, because we did Higher Learning, John Singleton.
Saw that in the theater too.
Yeah, there was appointment viewing in the 90s with the movies that he made. Yeah.
Romo, Collinsworth, or someone else for the director's commentary?
This is easy for me. It's Quentin. It's always Quentin for me. Quentin narrating some of these scenes, dude.
Tarantino?
Yeah.
He a real life freak.
It's always Quentin. So somebody on the internet like spliced up his commentary on King of New York that he did with you guys on the Rewatchables. And I just watched that like 2 days ago.
Yeah.
And when this guy gets going on a movie, on an actor, on a director, it's riveting.
Yeah. I mean, to me, it's Collinsworth for me.
Yeah.
Because I need the play-by-play of the actual scene.
I was thinking Romo.
Okay.
He's rubbing her shoulders, Jim. The wine's open, Jim. Oh, she touched his leg, Jim. Stuff's going down.
His dick's still hard, Jim. Yeah, let's go.
Half-Past Earned Research. The 1991 Pahlmeyer, these days, a $600 bottle.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Industrial Light and Magic made all the VR stuff. I don't think they brag about that in the offices.
Not the best moment.
Yeah, that's not
filmed in and around Seattle. Film's marketing touted it as the first Hollywood movie with major stars to address the topic of sexual harassment. I'm telling you, this was a crazy time for movies where it's like, this is the first AIDS movie.
Was like
this
how
is
they
the first sexual harassment movie. Yeah.
Sliver, the movie where we talk about video voyeurism.
Right.
Like
we didn't have the internet. So anytime Hollywood tackled a topic, it was like a big deal. It's like, oh, we're doing this.
Yeah.
Third most rented movie of 1995 and the number one rented movie in Baton Rouge.
Oh, I was about to say. Showgirls was one of my top rented ones as well.
Third of 1995.
Right.
A decade later, Demi Moore was sued for sexual harassment by the caretaker of her Idaho ranch. The case was dismissed.
Wait, what?
Yeah, just passing that along. And then Demi Moore gave birth to her third child a month before she was cast and biked 28 miles every morning pre-dawn to get back in shape for the film.
Oh, my God.
Kudos.
Dedication.
To her.
Yeah.
Apex Mountain, Michael Douglas, no.
Nah.
Demi Moore. It's right around here. It's Indecent Proposal. It's this movie. It's like if she's in a movie and she's on the poster, it's making $200 million.
For some reason, I can't call her Apex Mountain.
Yeah, because it's definitely not the movie that she's most associated with.
I think it's probably Indecent Proposal. Because that's barely a movie. And
It's
somehow
not-
that movie did really well.
It's not Ghost.
Yeah. So the problem is we've done all these movies and we probably already litigated this. Yeah, it might be Ghost.
It's not.
It might be
When
Ghost.
people think of Demi Moore, they don't think of Disclosure. So it can't be after this movie.
I was just
that
trying to
she's
think
at the
of
peak
when
her
did she have the
situation.
most power? Coming out of this movie where this is when she gets the $12 million for striptease?
So much money.
You have
That's what I was thinking.
She gets the $12 million for striptease.
She sets the record for a salary
highest
after
paid
this movie.
actress of
So
all
it
time.
might be this one. Sexual harassment movies?
Yeah.
It's got to be.
Yeah.
older Donald Sutherland. He's got this, and he's got 6 Degrees of Separation.
Yeah.
A movie that we're going to do on the Rewatchables at some point. So I think it's right around here. He's got the beard. He's got that smarmy, like that weird posture. Always in a suit, arms crossed.
When I think Donald Sutherland, because he was, I don't know why, I think Outbreak, man. Be compassionate, but be compassionate globally. When he was
I always think Invasion of Body Snatchers. Virtual reality, no. Actor Dennis Miller, I think yes, because he's got this in the net.
The net, yeah.
91 Pahlmeyer, definitely. The Miss Teenage New Mexico pageant, I think this was the peak.
Sure, yeah.
When was that ever mentioned? Right. Who even knew they had it? Anything else?
Seattle as a setting?
You know, so Singles comes out this year too.
Singles, yeah.
Sean Kemp and GP are in place. Ken Griffey is there.
Oh, no, it's Sleepless in Seattle. Yeah, what am I talking about?
Sleepless
but this is a year before.
Oh, yeah.
It's this stretch. This is Starbucks is starting. This is Amazon is getting ready. This is it.
This is Seattle's a cool place.
You're buying Seattle stock right here.
Right.
Yeah.
Cruise or Hanks?
Oh, shit.
In this movie, specifically, Tom Cruise. Like the aggrieved, I
had Cruise as well.
Incredulous, just lecturing people. Like that's Cruise.
I get it.
It's just the sex part.
It probably works, but sometimes the thing that puts me off Cruise is probably Cruise, right? Over Hanks. But sometimes the thing that puts me off about Cruise and Hanks is that Cruise is so handsome that the guy who plays the lead here has to have some sort of everyman type of situation. But Tom Hanks just doesn't work in the role. So, and Tom Cruise does. That's the thing. But Cruise, you need a guy that's like, what did she say about him at the beginning of the movie? She says, "You're handsome, but you're not irresistible." And that's like the perfect guy to play the role.
It's just for me, I could just see Tom Cruise yelling at his wife, yelling at his bosses, yelling at his subordinates.
Yeah, he gets to overact.
Yeah. That's what he does so well.
What were Cruise's? Did he ever?
He never had a movie like this.
Never did he? He never did.
Eyes Wide Shut was the closest.
Yeah, he did. Rock Thriller. That's his rock thriller. Eyes Wide Shut.
Racehorse, rock band, wrestler, fantasy team name. Alchemex is pretty strong for a horse.
Yeah. Alchemex is strong for a rock band too.
Alchemex sounds good.
Yeah.
Going to see Alchemex tonight. Picky Nits. Meredith would not have made sure that the phone was hung up. Phone's just dangling.
It's early cell phones. People don't really know how to work them like that, Bill. That's
the whole one of my nitpicks is the whole part with the we got it all on tape type of situation. I've been trying to get in touch with you. I can't get in touch with you. I got the whole thing on tape.
I had that as well.
Your whole career is in the balance. I have a tape that
I brought the tape home from work so I could listen to it a couple of times. Here it is.
Or Demi Moore on the it's like some kind of bicycle.
The Stairmaster just laying out her whole plan.
And they're just literally just saying all the evil things they've done.
So tomorrow we're going to set up Tom and blame the product launch on him.
Outside of the door.
Yeah. By the way, just so we don't gloss over it, the dude who had the tape is a freak. Right?
Yeah, he definitely masturbated. He masturbated the tape.
No, he said it.
Yeah.
In the movie, he goes, "I have the tape and I was listening to it with my girlfriend a couple of times."
Oh, yeah.
He's a freaky dog.
The legal proceedings just started in 24 hours. We had a lawyer and a judge, and we're just ready to roll. The merger's coming. Let's get a legal.
The movie takes place over the course of 1 week.
Yeah, it's like 4 days.
Is up and completely adjudicated.
Lawyers, depositions.
Lawyers, depots, and the whole no fucking way.
Another thing is like, as the case is going on, they're all still in the office and they're all acting like normal. Like when he gets in the elevator with Demi Moore, like somebody who just accused you of sexual harassment in the workplace, you're getting in an elevator with her alone?
Immediately.
Voluntarily? Like
immediately somebody's placed on leave.
It's not even like he's on there first and she just big boys him and gets on. She's on there and he just goes, "I'm just going to voluntarily hop in the elevator with somebody who falsely accused me of that."
Great.
Like, that's crazy.
The settlement offer, once he has the tape, and it's clear that, whatever.
G's?
He gets his job back at 100,000. He's like fist pumping. I'm going for like
come on.
5-6 million.
This dude's
give me more stock shares for the merger.
1 million? I mean 100,000? Like no.
Anything else?
No, by far my two biggest nitpicks were the tape and how
In
quickly
the legal time.
this was
adjudicated.
Yeah.
Sequel, prequel, prestige TV, all black cast, or untouchable. I gotta say, Presumed Innocent has proven that we can bring these back.
Literally,
yeah, this is a good prestige.
What it says. We need the Presumed Innocent treatment.
Yeah.
Tomorrow.
This should be season 2 of Presumed Innocent.
I would love it as a prestige show. You could
oh my God.
cast too hot. You could go a lot deeper with things. You could play a lot. I would love
my
it.
Man Fassbender's doing TV shows now. I would love to see him in the lead role of this.
Is this movie better with Wayne Jenkins, Danny Trejo, Sid Goldberg, Sam Jackson, J.T. Walsh, Nell, Byron Mayo, Harling Mays, Evil Laughter, and Ramon Raymond, Long Legs, or Philip Baker Hall? I guess we could have put Dylan Baker in there too. Can I give you Long Legs?
Oh yeah, go for it.
Somebody's got the tip. You're having sex on it. I haven't done Long Legs for a band yet.
Oh my goodness.
Just one Oscar. Who gets it?
Demi Moore, man.
I have Demi Moore as well.
Yeah, I had Douglas.
Okay.
Oh,
I had Michael.
You
Douglas.
love Everyman, Mike.
You love him.
I do. I just appreciate. I appreciate the guy that literally gets caught with his pants down, but is still fighting tooth and nail as if like because if he's to be believed, he did absolutely nothing wrong. He was the model worker. He's always been that, and these people are out to get him. I just love the steadfastness.
He does reconsider maybe some of his interactions with his assistant.
Yeah, he
apologized.
There is an enlightening.
Hey, sorry, I slapped you on the ass with the files there. My bad.
And the moment that he sees his assistant in there,
that's a great his face.
Like, oh my God, I've slapped her on her ass before.
I like the assistant. I thought she was a good actress. Too. I don't know what happened to her.
Her name's Jacqueline Kim.
Yeah,
I really liked her. The whole thing, but we can pass it up.
Probably unanswerable questions. Did we ever figure out a really good way to do Malaysian CD-ROMs, or we just it was just a mess for the whole 90s?
Yeah, I think so.
Elizabeth's son, did he become Jeff Bezos or some other 2000s billionaire?
It seems like he was right there around the boom. You know,
might have started something. Made like $200 million.
Definitely living off his Apple stock after the iPhone and the iPod go crazy for sure.
Did Meredith become our vice president nominee in 2008 on either side?
Wow, could have been. Did she come back and buy the company like she said she would?
Did she become a billionaire?
Did she become a billionaire?
I feel like she bounces back pretty strong.
I think she does too.
She took 2 days to figure out what did I do wrong here, and then solved it, and then was doing great.
Yeah, there's actually a version of this, like a sequel just around her, but it's like a Sex and the City type situation on HBO. Suddenly I See comes on at the beginning, and she's taking on the city.
Any other unanswerables?
No, not for me.
Best double feature choice. I'm going with The Net.
Then that's a good one.
Let's just go with like, here's what we thought the internet was going to be like in 1994.
Internet movie.
You could also do any of the Everyman trilogy with Mike.
I picked Enemy of the State because it's just,
I like it. That's another good
it's
technology
just like
movie.
Paranoia, technology, like, you know, these systems of power that's just gonna crush this regular guy just trying to get through the world and through his life. Yeah, that's what this movie kind of reminded me of.
We did that one on the Rewatchables a while ago, and it's so funny how it sees surveillance, where it's just like, it's the late 90s, and everywhere you go, we'll be able to see what you're doing with these cameras. And it's like, you can't even do that now?
I mean,
or maybe you were getting there at the Clippers arena.
You know, you are.
No, but like Will Smith's like in a dressing room, and they're like, they can zoom around the store and get in there.
Right now,
as soon as you leave out of this building, you're on camera. Yeah.
Like you're
always on camera.
And it's so funny when I'm watching all these interrogation videos. I'm watching the cops.
He always drops that like we.
What?
Well, you have to explain the interrogation
video. So I watch like First 48 or something.
No. I go on YouTube and I watch interrogation videos.
He likes seeing suspects get interrogated on YouTube. This is a YouTube search for band.
So is this like, so you could be prepared if the cops ever interrogate
you? You like the dynamics of the interrogation.
I just like to watch a cop use the Reed technique on a suspect to try to get information. And I learned so much. You're always on camera, and your phone is telling the police and everybody else where you are at all times during the day. Like, they know exactly where you are. So, but my double feature choice, I ought to change it to The Game, because I hadn't thought about the
Game's
Game
a good one, yeah.
as a double feature. You know what? I will change it to that, because I just had Basic Instinct, but that's literally basic.
Yeah.
The Indian Red Zawatney Award for what happened the next day. I think eventually Meredith becomes the senator of New Mexico. Like 2002 range.
Yeah.
I think Tom gets divorced. I don't think the wife lets it go. I think it starts coming up.
He takes the family to Napa and goes on like an insane wine bender.
Like a sideways type bender?
Yeah. I
think Tom leaves the business.
Yeah.
I think Tom,
Too much has happened.
I think they relocate to Ojai. His wife, I don't think the wife leaves him, but I do think that she sets an ultimatum that at this point you can't continue to be in the business like that. You got to get out of it.
She definitely goes on a girls' trip where things happen.
Yeah, of course.
There's a revenge girls' trip that she locks down.
Yeah.
What piece of memorabilia would you want from this movie?
There's like a Sonics thing in his office that I thought was super cool. In Tom Sanders' office. That was cool to me.
Yeah, I would want the basketball he has that makes no bouncing sound.
Yeah.
He's just throwing around the office. There's no sound at all. I would go with the Pahlmeyer bottle if it was unopened. Just like movie used bottle of wine.
I can't
Fans,
say.
Just say you did the bra, man.
It's the ripped panties.
All right. It's fine.
That's
You want the panties themselves?
Right.
Yeah, you can.
Lord have mercy.
I'm saying, I'm sorry. God. I apologize to the audience sincerely.
That was a Larry Sanders joke a few years later. They were talking about Planet Hollywood. One of the characters said, so I can have lunch next to Demi Moore's ripped panties? I think it was Artie. Coach Finstock Award, Best Life Lesson. Don't ever assume what the internet's going to be like.
Yeah,
could possibly be one.
Life lesson for me, Dennis Miller says 10 years from now, you're going to need a forklift to get it hard on. And I'm going to assume Michael Douglas is like 48. He's supposed to be in this
50.
movie.
Yeah.
Probably 50. So that means in 20 years, I'm going to need a forklift to get it hard on. So that's the life lesson for me.
Technology's changed it, brother.
Yeah.
My life lesson is very simple. Man, don't give your boss a shoulder up. Like, there's nothing that could good.
The 7 p.m. glass of wine.
7 p.m. glass of wine.
It's a life lesson we knew, but somehow this movie did.
Right.
Who won the movie?
Demi Moore.
For me, it's Levinson.
For real?
Yeah.
Really?
I just love that this guy, like, nobody would try to do this nowadays in terms of go out of your way to stake an opinion on all these weighty topics of women in the workplace and sexual harassment and technology and corporate culture and masculine. Like, he has something to say about a bunch of weighty topics, and like, that's what I like the most about the movie. Now, look, I don't agree with, his conclusions ultimately with everything, but I like that he has the balls to do it in a way that I just don't think filmmakers would do. They might stick to one thing. Like, I just watched Sonora and they're talking about sex work. And it's like, all right, I'm going to talk about the nature of sex work. And, there's going to be a little bit class mixed in, but we're sticking to like what it's like to be a sex worker, which is like, a pretty weighty kind of thing. This guy's like 5-6 different weighty topics that he's just taking his hand in and just being like, here's what I think, here's my take, here's my whatever. And I thought it was a pretty entertaining movie in the process.
I got Demi Moore.
I got Demi Moore too.
I respect it.
Honora was about a sex worker who got mixed up with Russian Borat. That's my blurb. That's my one blurb for Honora.
I love that movie.
It's great. I like it too. Craig, now we're in a different studio. We have to stare at you through a blurry window. But you had never seen this movie. What was your take?
10 out of 10.
Love it.
But people say 10 out of 10, no notes. 10 out of 10, but a lot of notes, I would say.
Yes.
It's a 10 out of 10 on the entertainment scale, This is like a they don't make them how they used to Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Really up there. I just think these movies are becoming like cultural case studies. Like, kids in school should be required. Like, if you're a sociology major, you should have to watch this movie just to see like what people were thinking and stuff in the 90s.
Yeah.
Also, you guys didn't bring up So this movie came out in 94. Sam Levinson, born in 85. Sam Levinson, the creator of Euphoria, the son of Barry.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Craig. Come on, Craig.
Sam,
Great job, Craig.
Sam probably saw like this movie 10 times when he was 9 years old.
Yes.
Kind of,
Yeah.
you know, probably was
Explains
pretty
a lot.
formative. Yeah, explains a lot for old Sam.
Great play, Craig.
That's a fantastic point.
Yeah.
I like your cultural artifact.
So true.
This is the thing with these movies that I think we try to make this point over and over again. This is just what people thought and acted and thought was a good idea in 1994. And it's really interesting to watch it in that context. The same thing for Philadelphia. The way they talk about homosexuality and AIDS in the movie, it's pretty accurate. It seems crazy now, but that was what 1993 was like.
If Philadelphia came out now, I think it would be criticized for not being sensitive enough when the entire point of the movie was to have a conversation about sensitivity and compassion, and you can only do that with the truth of the drama that was in the movie.
And Denzel would make them change the character a little bit.
I don't think he would. I don't think he would. See, I think
or the filmmaker would. Somebody would.
I think the filmmaker would.
They'd be like, we can't have me this homophobic.
A different actor might.
Yeah.
But the conflict that's in Denzel in that movie, especially in that one scene, that's the point of the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything else, Craig? What did Liz think?
We had to go. It was a blast. We like stopped it like 4 different times to figure out if the plot made any sense.
The answer is
and
no.
How it would end. It's just, you know what the problem? Like the movie's really fun and everything, but there's a couple plot things that are just so stupid. Like they build up certain things and then there's no payoff. Like the voicemail was like this big thing. Like Liz clocked in the beginning. She's like, he didn't turn the phone off. The voicemail is going to be a thing. And then it's like building up. And then Michael Douglas just like calls his friend. He's like, oh yeah, I just typed in the wrong number. Do you have the voicemail? And he's like, yep. And then there was another one where it's like, oh, how are they going to take down Demi Moore? How are they going to take down Meredith? Like, and then he just calls his buddy in some other city and he's like, hey, you got the files of that shows Meredith doesn't know what she's doing? And he's like, yep. He's like,
right here. Hold on.
It's like, I don't know. It's a
I'll fax them to you right now.
With no drop off. Yeah. I also want to say that these are the coolest offices I've ever seen in a movie by far.
Yeah, for sure.
The aesthetic in this movie is, especially now where everyone's in like 90s nostalgia mode, like the big clunky cluttered office, like the big physical computers. It's like perfect.
Sounds like Disclosure was a big hit at the Craig house.
Love it.
They stopped it 4 or 5 times as Craig was watching.
I didn't want to find out more information on that. All right, that's it for Disclosure. I think we made it.
So much fun.
Don't forget, for the people listening, you can go to the Den of Thieves, the Re-Den of Thieves taping on December 16th. I gave the information at the top of the pod. We'll tweet it out as well. Thanks to Craig Horlbeck for producing. Thanks to Jack Sanders as well. And thank you, fellas. This was a pleasure.
Excellent.